You wake up in a cramped hab block in Arrakeen, and the very first thing you do is check the moisture gauge on the wall. Your primary objective every morning is to stare at a monitor, hoping to measure a flat line of absolute zero. On any other planet, a clear sky is a pleasant forecast. Here, it is a lethal warning that the sun is actively trying to bleach the moisture directly from your pores. Daily maintenance means climbing to the roof, where the wind carries shards of silica that act like industrial sandpaper. These particles violently strip the protective coating off your equipment in seconds. This creates an impossible engineering constraint. If even a single grain of that sand manages to bypass a sensor's shield, it immediately shorts out the entire internal circuitry of the barometer. You spend your entire life polishing glass that will be scratched in 6 seconds, just so you can accurately record exactly how fast the city is turning to dust. And you have to deliver that news with a smile. Tracking a microscopic humidity drop of 0.01% might seem like a rounding error elsewhere, but on Arrakis, it triggers a geopolitical crisis. This fractional dip means the distillation process becomes inefficient, causing the settlement's water ration to plummet. Then a kinetic Coriolis storm forms. When you trigger the emergency broadcast, you do so knowing that the wall of rock and energy is moving too fast, and some spice harvester crews will inevitably miss the signal. Your forecast requires absolute precision. A mere 3-degree shift in wind direction dictates whether heavy machinery manages to retreat in time or gets buried under 1,000 tons of sand. You quickly realize you are not actually a scientist. You are a political scapegoat, positioned perfectly to absorb the blame for the Empire's massive financial risks and human gambles when the weather doesn't follow the laws of physics. Recording the daily broadcast requires stepping into a small, reinforced plasteel box. The equipment inside generates more heat than the failing cooling units can remove, effectively simmering you in your own skin while you speak. You have to wear a light-duty stillsuit just to keep your internal temperature stable. Your brain begins to feel like it's floating in warm oil, causing severe cognitive degradation as you try to read complex data off a glowing teleprompter. When a heavy dust squall hits, your external cameras go completely blind. You are forced to rely on seismic sensors buried deep in the rock, blindly guessing if the vibrations mean the wind is hitting 200 or 400 kilometers per hour. This diagram illustrates a fatal flaw in the weather stations. Their spinning turbines generate rhythmic sonic pulses that travel directly into the sand. Because rhythmic sound attracts great worms, this exact mechanical process actively summons them to destroy your tools. House officials often enter your office to demand you adjust the forecast. They force you to broadcast a lie, labeling a deadly storm as stable weather, just to keep the harvesters active for a few more hours of profit. This diagram shows a standard stillsuit cross-section. Calibrating a field sensor means sealing yourself inside this system. It recycles your sweat, breath, and waste. You endure 4 hours of total physical discomfort just to fix a decimal point. Between the pressure to report state-mandated lies and the hours spent existing as a biological extension of your recycling gear, your sense of humanity erodes. You become a tool of the state, a literal pump focused only on the movement of water and spice. When staring at the long-range dermal cameras, you will occasionally spot massive bodies of water appearing on the horizon. This is a cruel thermal inversion mirage, created by extreme heat bending the light. You spend your days analyzing these signals, scientifically identifying and dismissing these beautiful illusions. Your job is to tell people that the oasis they see is actually just a way to die of thirst faster. Then the wind abruptly changes direction by 180 degrees. This Coriolis shift creates a violent vacuum effect that rips through the atmosphere, triggering a total city blackout and leaving you trapped in a dark room. This diagram illustrates the delay in the deep desert warning system. Even if you spot a massive storm on the satellite feeds, your alert is trapped behind an administrative chain of command. You stand in your office, listening to the silence of a city that doesn't know it's about to be buried. You possess exact knowledge of the impending disaster, but completely lack the systemic power to stop it. Once the storm finally passes, the recovery begins. You spend the next 12 hours with a small brush and a vacuum, painstakingly sweeping magnetic, electrostatic dust off the delicate circuitry of your arrays. You do the exact same work you did last month, realizing this labor is purely cyclical. You are fighting to build a permanent record on a planet designed to erase everything it touches. This chart shows long-term data trends. Heat is rising, storms are intensifying, and water levels hitting record lows. Despite this evidence, a political mandate requires you to label it normal weather, forcing you to hide the decline to maintain public order. This is the core of your professional life. You are a professional observer of an inevitable disaster, forced to smile at the camera and tell the city it's a beautiful day, while you count the seconds until the desert wins.